Dusty trails, rocky chutes, blown out turns. If you are lucky enough to live somewhere nice and dry and hot, then tackling loose terrain is probably a pretty common thing. So here in this video is some great tips on how to conquer it. Okay, before we dive into the depths of this video, people, why not show the channel and myself a little bit of love by clicking the like and subscribe button. You can go one step further, click the bell, you'll get all the notifications as to when all the rad vids are popping up. But first, we are gonna stay with this loose terrain theme, and we're gonna hit you with body position. Now, on the bike, you're gonna wanna try and keep a nice neutral body position. So your body's gonna be fairly central on the bike. Now, what that does is that allows you to move around backwards and forwards, left to right on the bike, and actually be nice and flexible according to the terrain that you're gonna ride. So we're gonna hit this turn here, but it's really loose. I mean, look at all of this stuff. There's like pure gravels, there's stone, it's chaos everywhere on the floor here. Being loose is gonna allow me to sort of move around if that bike should take an unexpected maneuver, if the bike starts to drift or whatever, then being central on the bike means that I can actually counteract that. If I was too far back and the front end started to go, well then that front end's gone. I mean, it's see you later. It's in like the next state over or something like that. Likewise, if the front end is gripping but the back end starts to drift, then my weight over the front's not really going to be able to control that properly. So just staying nice and neutral, strong in the legs, to be able to absorb the bumps, move the bike about, dropping those heels so it gets the weight nice and low is exactly where you want to be for this. Holy moly, this is loose. Woo. Whoa. Right, braking on loose ground, it's a tricky business. So let's put it this way, if you were to just lock up the brakes when it's really loose, like coming down this straight here into this Tina Turner, maybe, then your wheels are probably just gonna lock up. So just grabbing handfuls of brake isn't gonna work in this scenario. No, you've gotta be a lot more gentle. You've gotta use a lot more modulation. You've gotta feather those brakes and slow down gradually. Your braking points are probably gonna change as well. So they're gonna get further away from the point that you wanna actually slow down for. That's because you can't slow down quite as quickly. So that's something that's worth bearing in mind as well. Another one is go easy on that front brake. As you just seen, if you pull up too hard on the front brake, that front end's gonna wash and you're gonna be in a world of pain. So it's not all about downhill when it comes to loose terrain. No, you gotta go up as well sometimes. And climbing up loose, gravelly surfaces, well, it can be pretty, it can be pretty tricky. So a few things you're gonna want to do here is, once that saddle's up, you're almost gonna shift your weight back in the saddle a little bit more. What that's gonna do is give you some good traction. It's gonna give you a lot of weight going through the back wheel. Ideally, suspension unlocked as well, so you can really sink that back end in and get as much grip as possible. When it comes to gearing, now this is a real tricky one. Too hard a gear and you're gonna be grinding your way up there and it's gonna be really, really difficult. Too easy and you'll be wheel spinning. So you've got to try and find that sweet spot where you're getting just the right cadence to drive you up there. It's obviously not too hard, but if you go too easy a gear, well, that is definitely when the wheel spins start happening. Right, people, let's talk all things line choice when it comes to loose terrain now, because if you were to look behind me here and all through this section, it looks like an absolute boulder field, right? There is rocks and looseness left, right and center. Now, because of that, line choice actually becomes crucial. So on this section here, there is a straight line all the way through, coming through this gully, which actually means, because it's a straight line, there's less turning, the braking is less on it, there's a little bit more high risk, but because of that, actually, in the long run, I feel like it's lower risk, whereas there is this rider's right lower line, where you sort of go along the rocks and then snake down lower. But there, you're having to brake and you're having to turn all on a loose surface. Now, if you go back to what I said earlier, your braking points become earlier on loose ground because you've got to take more time to slow down. You've got to be a little bit more cautious. And also turning on that loose terrain is tricky as well. Develop sort of your line choice, keep an eye on what's going on. The more you do it, the more you're going to learn and look ahead and see, aiming for patches of like grippier terrain, straight lines, and you'll just develop that sort of second nature to really put the bike where you want it. Right, let's talk all things drifting now, people, because when that ground gets loose underfoot, should we say. Getting around a turn the fastest, or sometimes the most funnest, can be done with a bit of a drift. But for this, it's a bit more advanced. You've got to be comfortable with that sort of bike losing traction and the back end stepping out a bit more. So you don't need to initiate a drift with a skid necessarily. That can be done down to technique and kicking that back end out just to get it to lose traction and slide once it's at a certain angle. But like I said before, you do need to be comfortable once the bike starts going, because otherwise if you're not, you could lose control. The front end could go something like that. Drifts are really good ways of actually tackling certainly some tighter turns as well, where if you were to go around sort of conventionally, you might lose grip. For drifting, it's just really good way to have fun with corners, and just practice makes perfect. So there we have it then, people, some top tips to tackle loose terrain. I hope they have actually genuinely helped you out. Hopefully the sun's coming where you are and the trail's dry enough to get a little bit loose and wild on them. But let me know what you thought down below. I love to hear from you guys and girls out there, but I'm out of here for now. So from me in Arizona, I'm gonna head that way. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.